Why is this recording giving me such a hard time? Like, I don't know why it's so low. Yes, I know that I can edit and manipulate and do all sorts of stuff, but I just wanted smooth sailing, minimal edits. But I have to do what I have to do because guess what? Today on the Whole Woman podcast, this is the finale. Yay! Woo! And to everyone who has tuned in, like, thank you. Like, I don't know if numbers is a good thing because sometimes I see the listeners and then I see the interactions and it's like, but I'm just going to tell myself the fact that that many people are clicking without me having little to no fame, with nothing to my name, just going ahead in the game. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it with pride and just go on, okay? So yes, a huge shout out to everyone who has actually listened to any of the things that I've posted, because I'm see, like, on the YouTube it's good. Of course on Spotify not so good because I don't promote it. It's my little secret. Like, I guess it's my secret for the YouTubers. And this is the longest intro you will ever hear. But welcome to the Whole One podcast. I'm your host Anika, and I am back with another episode, the final episode for now, that is. And remember, on the Whole Woman podcast, we are addressing the issues of the mind, body, and soul so that we can bloom and learn to become whole. And even if you're a guy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the age group, really. Well, I would like to think that people who are mature enough can, of course, tune into the content, are the ones tuning into the content. But yeah, like, there's not much limitations as to who can listen to the podcast. It's dedicated to women because I'm a woman myself, and these are just some matters that I think, like, if people listen, they're like, oh yes, I feel heard, or oh yes, I've heard that before, or like, just to agree. And of course, as a way for me to vent. Let's not forget that this is my venting platform out loud for random strangers to see. Very weird. Very weird. But I'm not venting about things that are catastrophic or things that I could just, probably write in a diary. These are things that can happen to anybody. Things that I think people can benefit from. Like, you can hear this and you be like, oh my gosh, girl, that is true. Or, oh my gosh, yes, I've been through that myself. It's all about relatability. It's all about forming a community and whatnot. So, on this final episode, the title is actually called Growing Pains. And growing pains, instantly you're probably thinking about you moving from 4'11" to 5'1", and maybe I'm talking about myself right there, because I swear there was a time I was 4'11". Now I'm stuck at 5'1". But besides that, it's more than just about the physical aspect of growth. It's like the things that are happening in life, like going through life, navigating life, both spiritually, socially, emotionally, all of the alleys. I say alleys quite a lot, but it's all of the alleys. So we're addressing the whole idea of growing pains. And before we do so, I do have a poem that I'm just going to drop right in. Let's go. I'm tough still, but I'm sensitive. If you say anything, I'll burst to tears. Memories have awakened, the wounds are now salted and aching. They never want me to continue without fear. Oh dear, God, it's me again, do you hear? Tell me, why do I need to break what I didn't build? And in the end, I, the breaker, take so long to even win. 100 stages, 500 levels. Angels sometimes are even disguised as devils. What am I doing? I thought it was freedom I was pursuing. Or maybe I'm already free. Tell me, God, am I really healed? Why do I need to go and rewrite history? And if I must, can you help me with the pages, please? My hand, Jesus. My hand. It has begun to bleed. Alright, so we are back after that poem that I hope to put out there in the world someday. And don't forget to go on my bio, or or in this case, if it's YouTube, go in my link. Well, I guess it's still my bio. Check out the book that I wrote. Check out my other platforms that I write a lot. You'll see I express myself a lot. I just don't really tell people about it, but I'm telling y'all. So if you want to see, I have a blog. Of course, I have YouTube. I've written a book. It's an anthology with poems. I have quite a few avenues that I, just let my literature loving self be free. So with that being said, let us get right into today's episode. Oh yes, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and just tune in for more. Even though I am going on a break for several reasons, sometimes I just don't have the time to do the edits and the recordings of myself that tend to be more than 15 minutes. Like, listen to my poetry. Like, I record the poems and I post them on this channel. Check something out. Follow me on some platform. Who knows what will happen? But yes, let's get right into it. So, growing pains now. No, when I talk about this, I just want to say these are assessments that I've really come up with in the past years. Like, these are the things that, not even just the past year, I shouldn't say, but overall, like, as I grow older, I've just started to realize you have to see these things. Like, these things are going to happen to you. It's almost like having an epiphany, but at the same time, I know that these are very standard. Like, they happen to just about anyone. But these are just my version, like me coming to terms with things. And in almost every single category, I've just listed some growing pains that I have experienced and the other persons may be experiencing as well. Or, just areas that people are curious about. How do you as an adult navigate through this? Or how has this treated you? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's your POV on this? So the first thing is love. And oh my, people, like, I might sound love deprived because I think the last episode or the one before I spoke about love. I spoke about love more than once. But a growing pain that I've realized is that love may not be for you. It's something that I even said to myself. And when I say that, and this is just me being raw or unfiltered or just realistic. When I say love, I do not mean that you cannot love, because as I already explained, my definition of love and your definition of love is two different. I just think your love is just love. Like, I'm not the type of person to be like, oh my gosh, a mother. Well, I don't even want to go there, because when it comes down to moms, I'm very sensitive, like in a positive type of way. Like, there's a mother's love is amazing, but I'm still not the type of person to be like, categorizing love like this and that type of like I'm not that type of person. But in this aspect, what I mean is that relationship wise, it's not for everyone. Not everybody is going to get into that type of relationship. Not everybody is going to find that partnership where, they grow old together and they live long and happily together. And this is not to say that I'm counting myself out. This is not even to say that I don't have hope for the future or faith or anything. This is just something that I've seen throughout life. Like, you see people grow older, you see people even in relationships and they're still not happy. And it's just because love is not for everyone. Like, it may not be for you. And I don't even want to speak that over your life, whoever is listening to this, but love is just not, in the sense of being a relationship, it may not be for everyone. Sadly, not everyone is going to end up in like a relationship and have the white picket fence. People don't really want to have the white picket fence. I'm Jamaican. I don't be like, such an American term. But not everyone is going to have that happy family, that home and all of that. And for some people it's fine. Like, not everyone sees themselves in like a relationship. Like, not everybody sees themselves with a family, and for some it's understandable, because you have some people, all they've known in their life is to just get up to work and just to make something of themselves, and sometimes it takes away from actually forming bonds. Whereas some people deliberately do it. Like, some people just don't have the time. Some people, they get caught up. So I'm not necessarily talking about people who look back and be like, boy, I regret not doing this. There are literally some people in this life who just do not focus on getting into relationships. And in the same breath, there are just some people who miss the mark. So the reality is, and I just feel like it's a growing pain, because I feel like it can hurt as much as how you can still come to terms with it, because I just feel as if no matter what, I think it's so beautiful when you can look at like an offspring, and even if it's biological or not, like I think it's such an amazing aspect to just have like a family or even have a child. Of course, understandably, not everyone can do that, but I still think like it's like a, whereas you do understand that there's contentment outside of being like a mother or being like even a wife. Like there's literally people who are so happy single, they've just built a life for themselves, like they're the rich auntie, as you would like to say, or they're just okay, or even if they're in a relationship or a marriage or whatever, like they're still happy enough. But I still just perhaps it's the type of person I am, somebody who pictures themselves with a future, pictures themselves as a wife with a family. I still think that it's somewhat bittersweet. I think it's a growing pain to understand that not everybody is going to marry, not everybody is going to have a family, but in the same way you have to accept that. Like I just feel like that's something that had to be number one for me. And another thing is, and this is number two on my growing pains list, it hurts to grow. Like people, like it literally, like physically hurts to grow. If we're talking about the other growing pains, like you literally feel your legs. Like I don't remember that as a child, but it's something that is biologically true. Like you get pains in your knee, that lower part of your leg. Like they say there's pain there while you're actually growing, while your limbs are developing. So yeah, but besides that, it actually hurts to grow. Like sometimes you'll be in some grueling situations, you'll be in some places where all you can do is literally cry. When some people were like, oh my, like whoever came up with this saying, blood, sweat, and tears, like, yeah, you ate, like, you literally ate with that one. Because trust me, beyond physically exhausting oneself, like, whether it be you have to work out more than the other person, whether it be you have to take multiple vehicles, whether it be the type of job that you do, it is a lot strenuous than what other people have to endure. Like physically there's pain, sometimes you have to cry, but I also feel like there are just days when your blood is literally boiling. Like I know it's just a figure of speech, but I just feel like the phrase blood, sweat, and tears, like yes, definitely. Like I don't know how to put into words. So sometimes you feel as if you're literally about to explode on the inside, simply because you're trying to quote unquote grow, or you're trying to improve, or you're trying to do more, or trying to get to a point in your life. So it hurts to grow, people, and that's just a growing pain in itself. It hurts, like literally, emotionally, physically, all of the alleys. It hurts to grow. um Another thing is, another growing pain is stepping back to step up. Sometimes you have to honestly just throw in the towel. And I know, like, who wants to give up, especially when you're at a certain age? You're 26, you're 25, and people, these are young ages, but I just feel like when people say you go through a midlife crisis, until you've actually experienced it, you would never know. But I honestly feel, as much as how sometimes I feel as if things are really societal expectations. Like, people are like, oh, when you reach this age, you're just similar to how when people are always like, by 25 you're supposed to marry. I do believe like there is a midlife crisis at like 25, and like as you descend into your 30s, like there's just a shift. Like your frontal lobe is frontal lobing like never before. And I feel like in that space of time, as you get to maturity, of course not everybody matures, not everybody's going to grow at the same pace, not everybody's going to grow at the same pace. It doesn't matter the age or even the gender. There are just some people who are going to be ahead in comparison to to others, but I just feel as if there is, speaking from experience, something happens when you get into that age range. Like, you have to make certain decisions. Like, you probably thought growing up that you would be a nurse, and I'm just just throwing out some random stuff, and then you start to realize probably you just work the first year of clinicals or whatever nurses do. I don't mean it in a bad way, people, but I don't know what, like, rotations. Yes, I can say that. I think, like, you just work the first year in the hospital and you realize it's not for you. Like, there's no passion, there's no joy, there is probably not even money. And you really have to just go back to the drawing board, not because of the fact that it's not even financially fulfilling, but because of how you feel while you're doing it. Because you can't picture yourself 10 years from now, 5 years from now, even a year, even a few months doing the same thing that you're presently doing, and you have to go back to the drawing board. You have to really reassess yourself. You're the young girl who all of her life she just wanted to be in like a nurse uniform and just giving the baby the giving the people the syringes and all of that. You have to really just realize that there's not much for you in this field. You cannot grow from this field. You probably can't even start a family in this field. And as I stated, I'm just hypothetically speaking. Personally, when it comes on to careers, like, as long as you're passionate, go for it. It doesn't matter what it is. That's how I look at life. Like, when it comes down to passion, when it comes down to happiness, and even though these are just emotions, these are just feelings, I just believe that passion can fuel so much. Like, when somebody is passionate about something, and rightfully so, justifiably so, it can move mountains. Like, a little passion goes a long way. You understand? So if you know that all of your life you dreamt of saving lives, assisting with saving lives, and you just can't see yourself not being a nurse, of course that's your drive. But there are cases where persons, they think that this was it for them, and they just come at a roadblock. They get like a burnout, or they just get a revelation that they have to start over again. I just feel as if, even though it's for the best, it's kind of like a shocker, because you're going to say to yourself, like, when did this happen? Like, I always joke to myself that I've lived so many lives, in terms of like careers, in terms of like even education wise, like the things that I've done, the career fields that I've been into. And I remember just joking to myself recently, and I said, "Whoa, I'm ready to live a next life again." And by that, I mean, like, I'm ready to move on to a different leg. I'm ready to take on something else. Like, the and even that in itself, I believe that when it comes on to growth, I believe somebody who is not necessarily, I think there is like a difference between wanting more and not being content. Like, I personally believe there's absolutely nothing wrong with being content while still having dreams. So sometimes people are like, "Oh, you need to settle down, or you need to just not overthink it too much." A go-getter is different than somebody who did not necessarily have to work as hard. Like, they didn't have to really think about it that much. Like, they just got up, they went to school, somebody sent them to school. Like, it's a different ideal, it's a different work for somebody who had to do it from scratch, or for somebody who along the way realized that they might have had it easy, but they realized that easy come, easy go. Like, there are just certain aspects that determine how persons approach life, and determines how much they want to go for their future. Like, not everybody, as they always say, can be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can, but in the same way, not everyone can work a 9 to 5. And I believe that all comes down to mindset. Like, oftentimes entrepreneurs are the persons who realize that they can't be confined. They can't be confined to the type of pay that they're getting. They can't be confined to the environment, to the rules. In a sense, they're the rebels. It's more than just a money making, but sometimes it's because of the fact that they just can't stay within the lines, because they see life as being more. Not to say that a person who has a stable job should just get up randomly and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna decide to go and I'm gonna sell shoes today because I love shoes." Like, and they just leave their job and it doesn't work out for them. Like, no. But I just feel as if, say, based on the life that you live, like, and the mindset that you have, that's what ultimately determines how much you want. Like, yeah. And I think that was pretty basic. Pretty basic. But yeah. Um Another thing I think is such a crazy growing pain is sometimes you have to have no money to finally, like, sometimes I feel like you have to have no money to finally no money. Like, pull up, pull up, pull up. Like, I feel like in order for many persons, many business minded people, many celebrities, even the same entrepreneurs, I feel like when you get to the point of rock bottom, or when you really get to the point where your bank account is just like sick, just wheezing, like it's not laughing, your money's not laughing, babes, like that's when you really start to shift perspective. That's when you really start to look at life differently and say, whoa, I can't do this. Like, I can't live like this. I can't, there is so much more for me to gain. And of course, people, as I say again, it just brings me back to, of course, the Bible verse like a trigger. Like, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole entire world and then he loses his soul? This is not necessarily about losing one's soul. That I didn't even want to say not necessarily. This is not about losing one's soul. This is about the persons who literally have to pinch and scrape and they decide to themselves something else has to be done. Like, no, this cannot be life. Because the reality, even as Christians, we are supposed to be royalty. We're supposed to be the royal priesthood. Why do you want to suffer? You understand? Like, I just want to clear that out before getting back on track. I don't understand why people think that sufferation should be the key. Long suffering is a fruit of the spirit, don't get me wrong. And you can experience, or more so resemble or represent, that fruit in many other aspects, not just financially. Okay, let me just say that. So I think that in itself is a growing pain, because imagine, to know how to navigate, to know how to even budget, you have to get to a point where you realize, boy, I spent too much money last week. And now I'm in a position where I cannot even go to work. That's when you really have to say to yourself, in order for me to get this right, I have to go back to the drawing board. I have to budget, or I have to cut down on this. Like, you literally have to lose money. Like, you have to have no money in order to really understand how to work with money, in order to understand how you're going to deal with money. And I think that's so bizarre. But I also think it's a growing pain. Like, you're not going to be an adult if you don't know how to handle your money, how to save, how to do all of those stuff, how to be resourceful. Top. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about, I feel, especially with nowadays, where it's almost like a trend to be religious, it's almost a trend to say, oh, you are a Christian and there's nothing behind it, like it's on the surface. I wholeheartedly have come to the realization that the best way that you can know God is by firstly tapping into the source the way that you understand. And let me just elaborate. I'm not saying that you should not read your Bible, right? From the perspective of a Christian. I'm not saying that you should not fellowship and go to church. No, I'm actually very traditional when it comes down to those ideas. Like, I believe that when of course, I understand people have gone through trauma, but when you find like the right place, and the right place is not without mistakes, not without issues, not without problems, but when you find like a home and you honestly are just surrounded by people who exemplify love and exemplify God, then you'll understand why fellowship is important and why it's so essential to not, isolate yourself permanently, that is. As well as when you understand and when you dive deeper into a relationship with God, you'll understand how important it is to not only read His Word, but you want to do the things of God. And with that being said, I'm in no way saying that I've got it all figured out, because even now I have some work to do. But there's just certain things, no matter what or how far in life or how low spiritually I feel, there's just certain things that are always going to be the same. What I mean about tapping into the source the way that you understand is that oftentimes we have these images projected before us, like everyone is on like a preaching spree. And this is not to even dismiss the fact that the Bible did say that in the last days the gospel would be spread. Like, this is expected. But I'm talking about the fact that oftentimes things look so fast. Like, I don't know if anybody has ever talked about it, but fast Christianity. Personally, I always say to people, like, easy come, easy go in every single aspect. Like, even the way how people portray their faith, somebody get baptized, somebody gets baptized, and then 3 months later they're a preacher. Like, I don't believe in that. That's just honestly not something that I believe in. And the reason why I don't believe in it is because there's just so many things. There are just certain obligations. There are just certain things that a leader has to do, that somebody who is leading people, somebody who has taken up that mantle, have to be not only be cleansed up, but it's a huge commitment, right? As the word says, to whom much is given, much is expected. I say that because oftentimes, especially, let's say you're a new person, you're a new convert, you're seeing all of these persons online, everybody, preaching, everybody's doing this and everybody's doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with sharing the gospel. But sometimes you might find yourself at a place asking yourself, what about me? What can I do? What will I ever do? And funny story, this has happened to me myself, where people have asked me, what do you do? Like, I've been in positions where I've done everything, then I've been cut down to not doing anything at all, or not doing what others might think of as being substantial. Like, I'm not singing on the choir, I'm not, doing the things that are up there and out there. And whereas, of course, you're supposed to ensure that your gifts are being used to honor God. But I always say this to people, not necessarily as a way to combat, but what are you saying to me is that because I do not have a role on the choir, I'm not as important as you who does. There was like a guy recently, not a guy I'm interested in or anything, but we are just having a conversation, and the person posed a question to me, and they said, what, like, just typical Christian converse. They were like, what do you do? So I said, nothing. I could have explained, I could have exploded, I could have said, I'm somewhat new here. These things are, like, I could have gone into so many alleys, but I didn't. I just said at this moment, nothing. And they said, really? You're just like, they would be like, you're just warming the benches. And I said to that person, so let me ask you a question. The person who comes and they opens up the church, they open up the church, they sweep the church, or they cook in the kitchen, are they simply, even when it's time to, get some work done, to organize something, they're not upfront and upright positions? What would you say about them? Because the reality is, if I sweep the church and somebody asks me, what do you do in church? You don't necessarily have a talent per se. Nobody is going to be like, oh, I'm the churchyard sweeper, or I'm the duster of the church, right? But it's still a significant position just the same. Because if you know that this role has been designated, like self-designated or officially designated, it's still not the most, how should I say, the most prettiest position. It's not even considered as a position. Or more so, we look at positions as the singers, the preachers, the praise team, things like that. So I said to that person, what you're saying is that the little that I might be doing, that I can say to you right now, it is not of substantial. It's not of value, because it doesn't look like what you do. And the person was like, you're making a valid point. So I said to them, what about the persons who have the lowly roles and they can't put like a title to it? Do you consider them less than? Like, when God speaks to them, isn't God going to be pleased with the fact that they've kept the place of worship clean? Like, I was just using those type of illustrations because oftentimes we always think that if we're not doing something so big and bold and outrageous, we're nobody. And honestly, not saying if you have a talent or if you have the desire to help, you should not pray to God about it. But it all comes down to what I'm saying. Before you start to doubt yourself or even say, I'm not good enough, just really and truly go to the source. Like, go to God and be like, God, this is what I want to do. This is what I hope to do. But currently, I don't know how to start. Like, I would love to be a singer, but I'm not sure how to sing. Like, I've seen so many instances where people, they don't necessarily have the best voice, but because of the fact that God laid that desire on their hearts, or they saw how they could dedicate themselves to God by providing their service, they're on the choir, sorry they're doing lots of things in that aspect. Like, he can open doors even when it seems as if the door is shut. And so the growing pain in that sense is that so many times there are so many illustrations of what looks right, or what looks as if it's the standard. If you don't have a TikTok page, you're not saying anything. If you're not coming up and shouting the loudest, you're not going out with anything. If you're not on the choir, you're nobody. Like, there's just so many different variations. And whereas I wholeheartedly believe that in this life, like, you're serving the Lord with gladness, you're support. They said really the only what you do for Christ will last. But there are cases where persons don't know where to start. And I always say, and this is something that I tell myself as well, just go to God about it. Like, many people won't understand. People will always criticize no matter what. Just go to God about it. If you don't know where you belong, if you don't know how to fit in, if you don't even understand the relationship that you're supposed to have, just go to God about it. Like, it might, make you feel down a bit because you're saying to yourself, I want to do more. How can I do more? Or I want to I want to do what you want me to do, but I don't know where to start. Just go to him. I think one of the most important thing we can understand is that God values our authenticity. He knows all and he sees all, but I've learned, like, it's so beautiful, it's so refreshing when you can go to him and be like, why God, this is what happened. This is what's happening, That's how you build and cultivate that relationship. So yes, the growing pain is that recognizing you might not be on the same level as others spiritually. You might even not know how to go about gaining that spiritual side of you, how to develop that relationship. But the best thing that you can do is just start. Even, when I just got saved, well, before I even got saved, what I used to do was to write, because that's what I knew. The only thing I knew was how to write. And slowly but surely, God crept into my life. So tap into the source the way you know how, like, things will fall into place afterwards. And it's, as I said, it's a growing pain, because sometimes it takes discrimination, it takes being outcasted before you can get to the realization that all he wants is just you. Just come as you are, literally. Come as how you know how to come to him. Um, a growing pain, and I'm winding down, similar to how I feel like my tonality is so low right now, is emotions. Like, I feel as if, and this is actually a high feel out emotions adulthood. I feel as if the older you get, the colder you get. And I know that's crazy, because trust me, I remember growing up, I always thought that, people always, and I'm so sorry for starting and then stopping, but sometimes my thoughts, they come in like a flood. But people used to always be like, no. People always say, remember when you were younger and you wanted to be an adult? And that was something I could never relate to, because I cannot, and I know this sounds crazy, but I do not recall ever, as a young person growing up, being like, oh, I can't wait to grow up. Like, I don't know. Perhaps it was the fact that I always tried to live in the present, but I don't recall, like, instances where, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to grow up. Like, I don't recall that for myself. I do know, of course, I anticipated, like, birthdays, like, oh, you're turning sweet 16, you're sweet 18, and whatever, but, like, I never be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be an adult so I can get away from you. Like, I was not like that. What I did recognize, so as a child growing up, I always wondered why adults were not fun. Like, I always felt like I knew when I was a child, like, I knew how I differentiated from an adult. And I know this might sound a bit strange, but there was just something, there was an aura, like a presence about certain adults that just screamed, not necessarily stresses of life, but there was almost like a dimness. Like, I know, and this might sound so weird, but I've even realized it as I've gotten older. Not that because I'm a very bubbly person. Like, I have my moments, don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I'm like, girl, that is too emo, that is too emo. But overall, I'm a very bubbly person. I'm always laughing, always joking, always, that's just me. But there are moments where I'm like, that's solemn, that's so not even sulky. I don't think it's a matter of sulky, but there's just always just this ear after as to say, I guess it's experience, because even now as a young adult growing into like an adult like the real adults them, sometimes when I look at persons who are older than me, there are certain aspects of them that still remind me of why, she's just a girl, she's just a man. But I feel like the experiences are what really hardens you, because I used to grow up with like persons who were like a few years older than me, and as time progressed I realized how there was just something about their demeanor, their manner that changed. And you know what changed in people's life? Life, like, I know that people always be like, don't be a result of your circumstances and whatever. You can come out good, but trust me, when life starts to life, like when you start to go through certain experiences, like, you're not always going to want to laugh. Like, you can still be the happiest person, but there are just certain things, certain adult experiences that kind of just take your emotions, your feelings, like your control down a notch or up a notch. And me just feel like so that is a growing pain, because I've seen some people like who, like, as I stated, like we used to grow together, like we grew together, and when you look at them now, it's like, whoa, life did a number on you. And it's not even that you're miserable, but you can just see the change. So I feel like when it comes on to how you react to things, how you process certain things as you get older, as you become an adult, there's just a shift. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, the growing pain is the shift that you experience becoming an adult. No. And I think this has to do with wanting a change. Like, and I was talking about stepping back to step up. It's kind of similar to it. But a growing pain is like likes, passion, and sense. That's literally what I wrote. Lights, passion, and sense. I've realized you can be passionate about something. And this is so paradoxical to what I just stated before. You can be passionate about something, right? You can like it so much, but it doesn't make sense, especially in the long term. Isn't that crazy? You see, that is a paradox, because I was literally saying that passion can bring you through so many things, like passion can drive you. But at the same time, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, it does not make sense, or it doesn't make sense for the moment. Exhibit A, let's say I want to use the arts, not my art. I'm not going to use my arts as a writer. I'm going to use like a painter. I think all art is beautiful. I've realized long ago the type of intelligence that I have is for the arts and literature or whatever. I don't know. I honestly don't know how that thing goes, where they put the different type of intelligence, the intelligence types. Any type of intelligence type that I have, it does not include math. But with that being said, I love the arts. I love when people can dance, when people can sing. I love when people can have. I love when people have that talent. Like, I think it's so beautiful the way how a person's mind can allow them to just conceptualize certain things. I love everything that is artistic. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Every single aspect, from writing to singing to poetry. Like, I just love it. Sometimes it blows my mind, to be honest. So when it comes on to know artists, like literally artists, like the painting people, the people them with sculpt and all of that. It is, I think that is such a underappreciated feel, or more so depending on where you're located. For example, Jamaica, it's like a hit or miss. So you can have the passion, the most passion in the world, because people, sometimes I see some artwork and it's so beautiful, and then sometimes I see some not just necessarily abstract, because abstract means that it's not so easy to understand, but sometimes I see some artwork that literally makes, I'm sorry, it just makes no sense. Like, it's nothing, in the sense, like, not about the backstory aspect of it, not about the abstractness of it, but it literally just looks underwhelming. And in the same breath, and that's just my opinion, but in the same breath, it blows up. Then you'll have someone who the majority can recognize and say, this is it, and it goes nowhere. Because I just believe similar to how we always say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, we can actually align it to art. Like, art is beautiful, but not everyone sees the beauty in the art that you're doing. So you will have someone there who's so passionate. They're me and these scenarios though, but I'm just gonna give it. Somebody's coming from like the country. They're going to school. They're going to study art. They're spending all of this money to paint, and they never get an A, or they never get the opportunity to shine because not everyone understands their vision. And sometimes that person comes to a stand block where they have to say to themselves, like, am I going to allow myself to suffer for 5 years? Or am I just going to put this on the back burner a bit and then just come back or get a second job, a second, like a primary source of income? Because I've seen so many people, like, they have ideas and they say, this is what I want to do to get me ahead. And sometimes, whereas, of course, a hustler, and I'm sorry for that term because sometimes people don't like it. But when I say hustler, I don't mean people doing any illegal activities, like persons who know how to get their way around, know how to make their money, know how to flip the script and, make something of them. So the hustlers who can ensure that cash is going to flow in irrespective. You understand? Those persons who will have like an artistic talent and they're making do. Like, they're snapping photographs, they're doing something. Not everybody can do that. And then it gets to a point where you have to really look into yourself and be like, how much longer am I going to just go ahead and say, starving or even neglecting so many essentials for the sake of one day? Like, how much longer can I take it? Because the reality is, sometimes it's not that it's never going to happen, but it's not going to happen right now. So I just realized like a growing pain, and I'm even going to say all my life. Sometimes I don't always say to myself, I don't want to talk about the things that I want to accomplish before I've accomplished, but there are certain aspects where I know what I want to do as an artist, and I say to myself, in the meantime, I just can't sit back and not do anything else because it makes no sense. Like, I know so many persons, they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I want, this is what I ultimately desire. And because of the fact that they have an ultimate desire, they do nothing. Y'all ever watch that movie, Acrimony? Oh my gosh. When, like, he knew he was a genius, he knew he could make the robot thingy. But for years upon years, and this is me not justifying that. I'm not justifying the relationship, the actions or nothing, but I just think it's kind of crazy because for years upon years, he was not doing anything. Like, he just had the idea, which eventually paid off. But for years, I mean a couple of years, well, he was not able to provide for himself or his family. And I'm like, people are literally in those positions. So sometimes you have to say to yourself, as a growing person, I love it. It's my passion, but does it make sense right now? Am I really just not going to do anything else? Like, come on. All right. So, yes. And as I stated, this is the finale until I don't know when I'm coming back. But this is the finale. And I just want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, baby. And remember to stay connected with me, to like my other content. Leave a comment. Somebody surprise me. Leave a comment, please. Bye.